Hello, everybody. Uh, Hi, and welcome to the first welcome. Ask Me Anything from home. It's quite a different environment. Usually, I have Carol and Martin with me on the room, and it's a lot easier to do this with a little bit of an audience than doing this to a ice cream. So I already apologize in advance if I have some kids running around one on the middle of the conversation, but I don't think I have to explain why. We have all our team working from home. I think it's been for us, it wasn't that much of a challenging because we are already a distributed company, but we have still had some people going to the office, and now we are 100% remote and have been a interesting experience. Can you guys just confirm you're hearing me okay? If you have anyone there, just make sure that my phones are all good. Uh, yeah, doesn't give me much feedback about the audio, but cool. Okay, thank you. So let's jump into it. First, yeah, just wish everybody that you guys are health, safe, stay home as much as you can, and we'll get better on the other side. Uh, Maybe you guys can hear my kids playing around in the living room. As I think as the world will get into a better place once all of this is over, we will have learned a lot of things about how to collaborate, about the values, of being like freedoms and being able to uh, move freely, and how it's much more important what we do and who we are with than what we actually buy. And I think there's a lot of the high consumerism will probably not go back to where it was before all this. But anyway, this can be a subject for another talk. I'm gonna. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Um, so let's start. That's my daughter Laura. First question that we have is from Rice. Um, Asking about, it would be awesome if Rocket.Chat included the collaboration contributor section on the website that include the account of collaborations from open source, linking to the commits of the contributors' GitHub account. I would love our to include the authors and release notes. I love how our C includes the authors in release notes. It would be nice to include that as part of the Rocket.Chat open source documentation or website. And I totally agree. We already have white hats session on the website, and like I said, we published on the release notes, and I think there's no reason why we shouldn't have a Hall of Fame somewhere on the website on the community page as suggestion. We are rewriting the whole website, so we're halting a little bit of the changes on the website since we want to put that on a new place. I'll be interesting to put the Hall of Fame there. I think it'd be really cool. Wondering if there's any way you can get the APIs to have almost like a leaderboard by contributions, but would be definitely be something that we need to do, and do this across the board, all the projects that we have on GitHub. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I agree that would be awesome, and that will be awesome. um, Martin, please add to our website feature list that we are working on. Another question from Dumitru. What are the big features or plan? What big features are planned to be implemented in RC this quarter in both web version and mobile apps? This question I will answer it here, but there's a lot of the things that we'll touch in more details later, because some of the questions repeat a little bit, or they talk about features that we are building. But the short list, I think, for me, like the most relevant ones, it's what we call event system, which is the whole chain of messages on a channel. that will give this certainty that all the history of messages is reliable. In any point in time, you know if there's anything missing, any message missing between them. And also the way we do the chain, we use the content of the message to generate the hash. So you can even validate if that message was really the same content that was inserted on the database at that point in time. So give companies, give people talking across servers some level of confidence that the message has not been tampered with or has not been changed later on in time, and give a little bit of these auditing capabilities. You can get into more details. And this is actually a key part of the Federation 2.0, right? That's how multiple servers will be certain that they have a complete history of the messages and a trusted history of messages. So the two things go together. Was a big change, as you can imagine, migrating all the messages, making sure that everything still works, and the impact on performance was a big endeavor, and that's why it's taking so long. It was supposed to be for the first quarter. We actually have been working on this for maybe like 6 months now. So, but it's just because we know we need to get it right. We cannot afford to get it wrong, and we keep like rather than pushing it fast when we think it wasn't ready, we decided to give it more time for testing and more time for to get maturity. So Federation 2.0 and the blockchain is like the two big things for the Q2. Also, something that I'm going to touch later is the SIP phone capability on the UI. We have a new concept, new user experience for threads and discussions, and the whole microservices engine as well for high scalability. We've been working on rewriting all the UI into React, so there's also this complete rewrite of Rocket.Chat web client into React. There's more stuff, as you can imagine, but those I think are the pillars of what our team has been busy doing and working on for quite some time. They're gonna come into different releases, and some of those features are gonna be broke into also. We have a initial version on the next release, then a major improvement and more features on the next, as everything. But I think by the end of as the second quarter of this year, all those are going to be live and a stable version released and fully functional on the product. Related to single source, how does that impact current and future customers? So this is we did because we think there's a really massive positive impact for everybody, both in a way to be able to collaborate on the enterprise if you're using the enterprise code base, on understanding how they can improve even the enterprise features, seeing there is no hidden secret or something on the enterprise, but also it makes it easier for people to migrate from a community edition and activate all the enterprise features. We always thought it would be a bad experience if you have to uninstall Rocket.Chat and install again a different version of Rocket.Chat just so you can get those features. And if you downgrade, you have to do the other way around. You have to reinstall a community edition to be able to keep running server. So we thought it would be much simpler if we have all the source code in one place, so all the deployments of Rocket.Chat are enterprise ready. And we've seen the same approach being taken by GitLab, where they moved all the enterprise code into a folder and then did in a point that you can activate. So we think that's the best way forward. Explain that in the license, and we did a blog post explaining for that. But the whole idea is you can still use the community edition. There's no restrictions, all the same that you guys already used. It's just that if you want to add the enterprise features, all you have to do is to activate the license and it starts working. So that's our goal from day one. And so far, that would have been the best way that we managed to do it. Um, what are the benefits of message auditing, and what is the impact of this feature on the performance of a team? I presume when you say performance of a team here, we are talking about how the team collaborates, or if they are afraid of collaborate because they know they might have been audited. Um, this is a very touchy subject, and I think each company needs to know, like, if they how they want to use it, if they want to use these features. Because I can see arguments for both cases, where employees and staff and members of a server can feel kind of invaded and not respecting the privacy. But on the other hand, we do have customers on the financial sector or on healthcare sector where they say we need legally obliged in some regions and countries to have this data about what someone from our company has told a patient, or has told a customer, or if there is harassment internally on the company, we need to provide a proof or a copy of the conversation between those users to know to show that there was no harassment, or that it was, we did something about it. So I think is one thing we're talking about a small team, and then maybe it's a different level of trust, right? If you go to a larger organization, it goes beyond trust. There are legal requirements, there are legal process that needs to be in place, um, and then the auditing becomes different. And when we decided to put the auditing is because we know in the end of the day, if you don't have the end-to-end encryption enabled, like the company could just go to the database and read the database anyway. It is more cumbersome. You need to have a DBA than to approve and go there. But you figure we rather have a proper process in place and have all those features for the enterprise, and then also have a way to log the auditing. That's a thing. It's a big difference between going directly to the database and taking a look, and only allowing people or ask to do an auditing. That auditing gets logged, so you can audit the auditors. You will see a log of whoever requested to see some messages, and why they have to provide a reason, and then you can try to avoid or prevent abuse with that process in place. So for us, that was the best way of doing it, where you build a feature, but you build the feature in a way that's the right way of being used, because it's a real use case for a lot of organizations. Next question. I heard what happened with Zoom. What measures is Rocket.Chat taking to avoid any data leak? Uh, there's a few things that we run to avoid data leaks. I think from the SaaS version, we are on the process of getting our all our internal documents and process and training validated using the ISO. I think it's 27001. For security, we have those HackerOne programs, rewards for people trying to break and find vulnerabilities. We also help companies to set up their own environment if they want Rocket.Chat behind the firewall, and then behind their own level of security, which is different than using a SaaS. If you're then having your self-managed deployment, and a lot of banks and hospitals and even the U.S. Navy use Rocket.Chat on their own environment for that reason, and then they have a extra layer and degree of protection that they are comfortable with and that they've been working on. So I think by our own nature on how distributed Rocket.Chat is and how you can manage your own data, that's already kind of like a big level of mitigation of those problems. On the application level, we are always running those bounty programs for people to find vulnerabilities, and we work them immediately when anything is fine, and have disclosure programs and so on. And also for video and messaging, we are pushing more and more the end-to-end encryption to be a feature that people use if allowed by the administrators to have end-to-end encryption on the messages. Um, because in that case, the company will lose the access to the history of the conversation. But I think the only way to really achieve that will be on the end with the end-to-end encryption. And I know that end-to-end encryption on video is also something that on the browser it wasn't feasible until recently, and our partner Jitsi has been working on developing the end-to-end encryption for video streams, a real end-to-end encryption for video streams, not the one that was showcased, promoted by Zoom, which is just like a transport layer encryption, but not an end-to-end encryption. And I think this is going to be like one of the game changers, bringing that technology into the Rocket.Chat deployments, where you allow end-to-end encryption both on the video layer, audio layer, and message layer. Uh, Everybody needs to understand that the trade-offs. So you lose the ability to record those on the server level. You lose the ability to search the messages on the server level. But then the upside is that you get a true secure communication between the two parts. And then you have to decide what's your requirements, your use cases, and what you're going to use. But those are the main points and the main actions that we are taking, have been taking for a long time to protect privacy of our users. Um, Next questions. Would you say that Rocket.Chat would be a good use for a university? Do you have any reference case studies? Yeah, the question, most definitely, that's actually one of the biggest use cases that you have for Rocket.Chat is universities across the world that use it. So we have a few universities in US, we have universities in Brazil, and we have quite a few in Germany as well. We even just did a blog post co-written with the Bielefeld University on our website, so anyone can go there and actually take a look. I asked the team to put together a list of some other universities or that have been using it. We will create on the new website. We're putting together a solutions page, also separated by industry. So one of them is education, the education sector, and we will have a more use cases and more list of customers um, on that page. If you are interested, if you talk, I know that our team pulled together a list of universities using it. So if you guys are interested, you can ask our sales team to prepare this list to share. I'm not going to share my screen here because I think it's a two draft. Some of those are they're validating and writing the contacts, but I can see at least there's about 30 of them on the list. North America, Latin, and Europe. What else? So what is coming on the 4.0 release? So 4.0, all the stuff that I talked about on the second quarter of this 2020, the key ones are being blockchain, event system, and federations. Those are the breaking changes, right? So those actually are the ones that are going to come in the 4.0. We will probably we'll have added the new threads UI, or at least a version that already changed a lot of the threads to the new design. Is not the final refactoring, and possibly the start of the refactoring of the discussions UI as well, about how we store the data on the database, like this, the history of the messages, and ideally. Not sure if the 4.0 or 4.1 will be the seed phone, and during those next three releases, we'll have the new version of threads and discussions and the microservices engine. The microservices engine is also one of the reasons we combined the into a single repository, the open source, the community edition and enterprise edition. So on the enterprise edition, we the guys have been working on a microservice bus, so you can get and be able to break some of the functions and methods from Rocket.Chat into single purpose containers. Can be for the code to be exported to single purpose containers and then scaled with OpenShift or Kubernetes in a way that makes Rocket.Chat much more faster to actually respond to demands on specific areas of the systems. So we brought this architecture into the code, and we want to make it more generally available on the next release. There's a few things that we need to tweak on the UI, but hopefully it's those stuff are going to be for 4.0, at least some of them. Omnichannel live. Next question. The omnichannel live chat feature is really useful. We added it to our website and now connect with our customers directly on our sales and service team. Thank you. However, we do have some customers who are not computer literate and use their phones only to as a way to talk. Does Rocket.Chat have any plans to add support for phone only users? And again, I think that's what I was mentioned with the SIP integration. The whole idea of the SIP integration is that you would be able to register a Rocket.Chat user against Asterix phone center, PBX or a virtual PBX, or ideally maybe Avaya and other vendors. We're just starting with the open source Asterix, but ideally being SIP, we'll be able to register it against any other centralized phone system. And yes, in this sense, you would be able to answer calls from the Rocket.Chat UI. The same way you can answer someone calling you on a video conference or on a Jitsi call, you would just be able to both receive calls and make calls. If you have a dial, then I can share the mockups later, but then you can see a dial pad. You can see you're looking at when you see users decide if you want to call them on their mobile, on their phone, or try to do a call via video conference. So this is coming very soon. We're talking about maybe next release to have a beta of this, or definitely the one after. One or the other, you have the SIP phone integration, and this is both. We are working with Whoopee on the SIP phone on the web interface, and we have a Conlink on the SIP phone on the React Native apps. So you would be able to make and receive calls using SIP, both on all your devices. So yeah, and just so you guys know, we already even have working prototypes on all of this. We're just now finalizing more. Is about the architecture, like the working prototypes were done more as a proof of concept, and now we need to design the right way to bring back the code into our source code, and also the design wise to how to make the experience look more aligned with the rest of the Rocket.Chat UI. Next, my company started to work with Federation and encountered a few problems. When will the Federation get out of experimental? And should we do if we need it? If we needed it yesterday, it will come out on the next release, on the 4.0 release. It's already out for testing. I think there's a Federation channel where you can meet with have two developers dedicated to it. To move this faster, to be able to collect all this feedback and help community to tests, and we are now, I think, looking good and strong to get this released, the 4.0. So yeah, just sorry for the delay and hang on tight. We really just around the corner to be able to release it. We will make available first one already a kind of like a beta for people to start testing out very soon, and then hopefully all the learnings from the experimental version of the federation are going to be make all your problems go away, because that was the whole point of having the experimental and then implementation, so we could learn a proper version of the federation in the blockchain event system. We got excited. Another question. We got excited when you announced the availability of apps and marketplace, but a few months on, and we still don't see that many apps available. The reason why, I think there's two things. One is we lacked the documentation to help people build those apps, and also the feedback that we received. Like we need a lot of those apps to have kind of compatibility with how you develop apps for Slack and Microsoft Teams. So the folks of the team now is do an area where we do a compatibility layer that makes it easier to get an app that was developed through Slack and redeploy it as a Rocket.Chat app. So we are working with a few app publishers that have done apps for Slack to see help make it as seamless as possible to redeploy. And then the idea is more and more to reach out to Slack app publishers and Microsoft Teams app publishers and get them to point and migrate into our marketplace. And I think this it was a bigger endeavor than we anticipated. We had to hire more people to put on the team. So now we've just recently added more people to the app scene to focus on that, even building some of the apps ourselves for some of the key functionality that we wanted to have. But definitely we are investing more to try to speed up this marketplace publishing process. And all the help is welcome. We also hire are about to hire a document writer that will be dedicated to get all those documentation right and foster more engagement from the community to understand better how to build the apps. I think we're getting close to our time. I have a few questions. One, I think is also relevant that I put here. When will the push notification pricing be implemented? Soon. And the reason I don't have a final answer for that is because we literally decided to refactor the way push notification works. And that push notification, the way we need it work, we actually had to be a lot more verbose on the amount of push notifications that we are sending out. We are creating the ability for push notifications to be retracted. So if you go to the channel and you read it, we are putting all the notifications on a queue. So if you are interacting with the system and someone sending you a message, if you don't interact with the system again, that message has been put in a queue and you'll be sent. And if you interact with the system, then we clear the queue for your user, so you don't have the message on your cell phone. But that means that a lot of more messages or push notifications will be created. Hopefully this will sort out one of the biggest problem that we had. So far, people complained that they were not receiving push notifications when they expected, because it was that kind of delay between you getting off your computer and the computer considering you a way to start sending notifications to you. Now we will do it differently. We will always put on a queue, and if you don't interact, then all the messages in the queue are going to be sent to you, and then you're going to get sent the message even from where you were still considered active on any client at that time. So this change, we think, will increase the number of notifications. We don't want to get people by surprise, so that's why we didn't want to impose a pricing model before we roll this out. A few features, make it stable, remeasure the load on our servers, and then again, kind of redesign the quotes and the limits for the free version. So we're probably talking for another 2 months until we can get that those quotes started to be imposed. But on the upside, personification become a lot more reliable on the next this release that is coming out on the 27th. Okay, I already crossed the time, but what advantage of chat, Rocket.Chat and Jitsi for video? I think I mentioned those above. Right now is the fact that it's the distributed video gateway. Companies can run their own gateways. If they run behind a firewall, they have a lot more security. If they have a big office, if they run inside their own network, they will have a even better.
So